Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing for Designers podcast. I'm your host, Masha Coyne, a messaging strategist and a copywriter for the interior design industry. I've been marketing for what feels like forever in my past career at some of the biggest global firms like KPMG and Deloitte. Today, I write website copy for designers using my signature voice of customer framework. If you're a designer looking to up your marketing game and attract premium clients, this podcast is for you. Each week on the show, we're going to be talking all things marketing, from branding to messaging to social media, SEO, and so much more, so you can have all the tools you need to grow your business and attract your dream clients. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Marketing for Designers, the podcast where we dive deep into marketing strategies that help you grow your interior design business. So today is going to be a short episode, but I think a very actionable one. We're talking about something that might seem small, but it's absolutely critical to get it right because it's one of the keys to an effective and high-performing website. We're talking about CTAs or calls to action. So I'm going to be referring to them throughout this episode as CTAs, but essentially it is CTA stands for a call to action. So let's say you've invested in a really great design for your website, your copy, and you've got, great professional photography of your projects. Everything is on point, yet your website visitors are not converting. They're not taking that next step to booking a consultation or whatever that next step that you want them to take. Sometimes it's booking a consultation. Sometimes it's just reaching out or maybe downloading a lead magnet or some type of guide that you've created. So what could be happening is that your CTAs are not strong enough. They're not motivating your website visitors to take that next step. That could be the problem. But let's start with the basics. What is a CTA? So a CTA, or a call to action, is essentially the direction that you give your website visitors. It's the button they click, the link that they need to follow, or like I said, whatever that CTA whatever that next step that you want your visitors to take. So it's the button they click or the link that they need to follow or anything that prompts them to take the next step in the journey with you on your website. So think of your website kind of like a roadmap. If you don't have clear signs pointing out the different directions that your visitors need to take, that your visitors could get lost, or worse, they might just give up and leave. And that could be happening on your website. So I'll give you a little analogy. Imagine walking into like a beautifully designed boutique with all the different beautiful products that you could ever want. But when it's time to check out, there's no cashier. There's no cash register anywhere in sight, no clear way to purchase anything. That could be frustrating. You want to buy, but you can't. And that's what it can feel like for a visitor on a website when you don't have clear or really strong calls to action. So CTAs, calls to action, are the bridge between browsing and taking action. Without a strong CTA, your website is just, a collection of pretty pictures and words, but with no clear path forward. But with the right CTAs in place, you're basically helping, you're guiding your visitors towards becoming clients. But here's the thing. I work with interior designers on their websites. I write copy for interior designers. And I also do a lot of audits of their messaging. And the biggest mistake that I see interior designers make when it comes to CTAs is either not including one, like not including a call to action on your pages, or including a weak one. And by a weak one, sometimes I mean like when I see a button, just a single button, like learn more or reach out or get in touch. And that's all I see. Having just the button will not motivate your website visitors to take that next step. It's simply not compelling enough to motivate your website visitors to take that next step. So what makes a good call to action? Let's take a look like, a good one versus a poor one. So a poor CTA is vague and uninspiring. think of something, like I said earlier, like just having a button there, like submit or learn more or click here. These kind of buttons, when I see them at the bottom of the page, they don't really tell the visitor much. They certainly don't make me excited to take that next action that you want me to take. But when we're talking about a really good, a strong CTA is specific, inviting, and it speaks directly to what your visitors want. So instead of just having submit or saying something like learn more, try something like let's create something extraordinary together. Or instead of just click here, you want to say something like see our latest projects in action. And then you'll have that button go to, let's say, your portfolio page. So notice how these different CTAs are not only action oriented, but they're also emotionally engaging. They make your visitors feel something. They make them feel understood, and they make your visitors feel like they're taking the next step towards something meaningful, towards something they want. So as I said earlier, the main job of a CTA is to encourage the next step in the customer journey. So this could be anything from signing up to your newsletter or booking consultation or downloading a free resource, whatever that call to action, because different pages have different CTAs. So for example, on your homepage, you may have a few calls to action. If you think about your homepage like a gateway to the rest of the website, you'll have, for example, we start at the top of the page, you'll have your main headline, then you'll have a snippet about you, then there's going to be the first CTA that leads to your about page. There's going to be the next one that leads to your services page. Basically, think of it as the gateway to the rest of your site, inviting people to take that journey through your entire site. So you're going to have a couple of CTAs there, but on an about page, at the end of your about page, it may lead to your contact page. But here's something very, very important about your CTAs. So a good CTA should also reduce friction. It should make it incredibly easy for your visitors to know what to do next without having to think too hard about it. You do not want to make your website visitors think, because thinking or hesitating, it leads to inaction. So remember, a well-paced, a well-worded call to action, it kind of like a little nudge to your visitors towards making that decision. It should feel like a natural thing to do, like, oh yeah, of course, I want to see the portfolio next. Or yeah, I want to chat about my next my project, my home renovation project. So it's about making the next step obvious and enticing. So here's a common mistake that I see all the time. Designers relying on visitors to figure out the journey through the website on their own. Yes, there is a upper navigation on your website where you see like the home tab, the about tab, the contact. You kind of think, well, yeah, the navigation is there, so they know where to go next. They know, if they want to check out your services, that they should click on a services page, or they know if they want to learn more about you, they should go on an about page, or if they want to reach out, they should click on the contact page. What's happening is that you're relying on them to make that decision. You're hoping that your visitors will just magically click through to your contact page or find their own way to your services section or your about page. And if you're doing that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. First of all, you're making them think. You're making them decide that on your own. People do not want to think too hard when they're browsing a website. If your website makes them stop and wonder what it is that they're supposed to do next, they're more likely to just leave without doing anything, without taking that next step. That's why intuitive navigation and clear CTAs are so, so important. But even having those, the clear navigation and easy to understand CTAs, you still want to tell your website visitor what you want them to do next, because your job is to guide your visitors every single step of the way, making it easy, super, super easy for them to take the next action. Because we're not only talking about like good copy and good CTAs, but we're also talking about good user experience on the website. Now, let's talk about creating urgency in your CTAs. But this one is tricky. And first of all, you do need to create urgency in your calls to action because that's one of the jobs of your call to action. But this one is tricky because when it comes to interior design, we know it's a luxury industry. So creating a sense of urgency in your CTA is not so much about pressure as it is in other industries. But with interior design being the luxury industry, it's about exclusivity. As you know, in this industry, clients value quality of attention and personalized service that they receive. So they know that a truly bespoke custom design takes time and careful consideration, which is why it's so important to subtly communicate your limited availability of your services. So unlike mass market offerings and in different industry, you're not asking your clients to rush to grab a discount, to meet a deadline. Instead, you're letting them know that your time and expertise are in high demand. And you only take a select number of clients or projects each year, which is true. That's what happens. You only want to do a few projects a year, depending how big your interior design firm is. But that's how that's what you do. You want to communicate that. You want to convey that you're only taking a select number of clients to ensure the highest level of service. So, for example, instead of saying something like "book your consultation today," you could say something like "now booking for the fall season," and limited spaces are available, or we take on a limited number of projects each. I don't know. Let's say each quarter or each year, to just to make sure that every single one of our clients receives our full attention. So this approach respects your audience while also gently giving them that nudge, encouraging them to act sooner rather than later. So you're not creating pressure. You're highlighting the exclusivity and personalized attention that comes with working with you. And in the luxury market, it's about positioning your services as something special and rare. And by doing this, you're not just offering a service, you're offering an exclusive experience that clients will not want to miss on. Now, let's talk about making your CTAs evoke an emotion, because that's what needs to happen when your website visitors come across your CTAs. First and foremost, you want to tailor your CTAs to what your audience cares about the most. Knowing this industry, and of course, depending on what is that next step that you want them to take, most likely your visitors are looking to transform their living space, hire a designer. So your CTA should speak directly to that desire. How do they want to make their home feel like? So speak to that desire. You know your clients best. You know what it is they want. So speak to it in your calls to action. So don't just have a button, like a single button. You want to include a couple of lines of copy right before they read the main call to action, the button. So instead of just saying get started, try something like ready to transform your space. Let's make your vision a reality. Notice the difference. It's a slight difference. There's not a whole lot of copy in the revised CTA, but these CTAs are not just about taking action, whereas get started is just about taking an action. But when you speak to that desire, to what it is that they want, when your CTAs evoke an emotion, then your CTA transforms into something where it's not just talking about action, but they're also talking about action that feels valuable, that feels important to them. It feels like it's talking to something that they actually want because it gets them closer to what it is that they want. So the language that you use in your CTAs should evoke an emotion. It needs to make your visitors feel something. It should make them feel as if they're taking a step towards something they really desire. And that's that. So let's summarize the key points that we covered today. What do we want our CTAs to do? There are a few things that you want to make sure your CTAs do. So number one, they should evoke an emotion. So your call to action needs to connect with your visitor on a deeply emotional level. So you want to use the language that speaks directly to what it is that they want or what it is that they need. So it makes them feel understood and eager to take that next step. Number two, it should inspire. A good call to action clearly tells your visitor what you want them to do next on your website. It should be specific and action-oriented, guiding them to naturally take that next step. Number 3, it should reduce friction. So the last thing that you want for your visitor is to hesitate or get confused about what to do. Remember, thinking or hesitating leads to inaction. So your CTA should make it easy for them to take that next step without having to think too hard or navigate through multiple pages. Number 4, your CTA should convey exclusivity and a sense of urgency. And as I said before, in the luxury market, like interior design, urgency is not about rushing, but it's about exclusivity. So your CTA should subtly communicate that your services are in high demand, it's special, it's rare, that you only take on a limited number of projects to ensure that you give personalized, high quality experience to each client. And the last thing is, that's a very important one. Your CTA, your call to action, should be on every core page of your website. So don't just rely on your CTA to be found, may be found on your contact page. Make sure every core page of your website, and I'm talking about your home page, your services page, your about page, even your portfolio page, you want to make sure that it has a clear and compelling call to action to guide your visitors through their journey with you. So what I would encourage you to do next is to actually go visit your website copy. Go check out your website. Maybe you haven't seen it in a while. Visit it. See what kind of CTAs you have on your pages at the moment. And you want to remember that a strong call to action is not just about telling someone what to do, but it's about making them feel something, reducing any barrier to action, and motivate them to take that next step now. So go revisit your current CTAs. Make sure it's not just a button. Make sure you have a CTA in the first place, because as I said, a lot of designers do not include CTAs on all the pages, on all the core pages of their website, and see where you can make improvements based on the 5 tips that I shared today. So I hope you enjoyed this quick episode. If you did, please let me know. I would love to know that. And you can do that by leaving a review on this podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. And I would so appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Marketing for Designers. This is Masha Cohen signing off. See you next week.